Money has a way of turning even the sweetest family moments into battlegrounds. I learned this the hard way at my son Jason's engagement dinner, watching his fiancée Sophie transform from charming socialite to financial predator in the space of a champagne toast. I'm Hannah, and until tonight, I thought I knew my children better than anyone else in the world. To the happy couple, I raised my glass, my voice carrying across the intimate dining room of Bellini's, Jason's favorite restaurant since childhood. The candlelight caught the diamond on Sophie's finger, sending prisms dancing across the white tablecloth. Actually, Sophie's perfectly manicured hand touched my arm, her grip just a fraction too tight. Before we toast, Jason and I have something we'd like to discuss. My daughter Evelyn shifted in her seat beside me, her artist's eyes narrowing. She'd never warmed to Sophie, but I'd always attributed that to sisterly protectiveness. Mom, Jason leaned forward, his familiar smile not quite reaching his eyes. Sophie and I have been planning our dream wedding. We've found this amazing venue in the Hamptons. The Rosewood Estate, Sophie interjected. It's absolutely perfect. My parents are contributing significantly, of course, but we were hoping you'd want to be part of making our special day unforgettable. The waiter arrived with our appetizers. Nobody touched them. That sounds lovely, I said carefully, my stomach tightening. What kind of contribution did you have in mind? Sophie's laugh tinkled like expensive crystal. Well, considering the venue alone is running close to 6 figures, we thought $50,000 would be fair. It's traditional for the mother of the groom to handle certain aspects. My wine glass froze halfway to my lips. $50,000. More than my annual salary as a high school art teacher. More than what remained of David's life insurance after his medical bills. That's quite traditional of you. Evelyn's voice dripped acid, especially considering Mom's still paying off Dad's hospital expenses. Evelyn, Jason snapped, this isn't about Dad. No, Sophie smiled, her teeth gleaming. This is about family, about showing support for Jason's future. You want that, don't you, Hannah? The way she said my name, not Mom or even Mrs. Mitchell, sent a chill down my spine. I'd love to contribute, I managed, but that amount isn't possible right now. Maybe we could discuss something more reasonable. More reasonable? Jason's face hardened into something I didn't recognize. Mom, this is my wedding. Sophie's family is investing so much. Are you really going to embarrass me like this? Jason, I whispered, you know about the medical bills, about the mortgage. There's always a reason, isn't there? He pushed his chair back. Always some excuse why you can't support my dreams. Maybe you could sell some of those paintings you waste time on, or take out a loan. Sophie placed her hand over his. Darling, let's not get upset. I'm sure Hannah will figure something out. Won't you, Hannah? The restaurant suddenly felt too small, too warm. Across the table, my son stared at me like I was a stranger, or worse, an obstacle. We should probably call it a night, I said, reaching for my purse. We can discuss this when everyone's calmer. There's nothing to discuss, Jason stood, helping Sophie with her coat. Either you're part of our happiness or you're not. Your choice, Mom. They left without saying goodbye. Evelyn grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing hard enough to hurt. Mom, she whispered, tell me you're not actually considering this. I watched my son disappear into the night with his fiancée, remembering the little boy who once promised he'd take care of me when I got old. The son who'd held my hand at his father's funeral last year. No, I said finally, my voice stronger than I felt. I'm not considering it at all. What I was considering was something entirely different, something that would make them both regret ever trying to manipulate me. 3 days after the disastrous engagement dinner, I found Sophie waiting in my classroom after the last bell. She perched on a student desk, designer handbag in her lap, looking completely out of place among the half-finished art projects and paint-splattered tables. Your students are quite talented, she said, gesturing to a wall of self-portraits. Though I suppose talent isn't everything, is it? I continued cleaning brushes, forcing my hands to stay steady. The school day's over, Sophie. I have grading to do. This won't take long. She opened her bag, pulling out a thick manila envelope. I've brought some wedding vendor contracts. Jason thought it might help if you saw exactly where your contribution would be going. I already told you both. Hannah, she cut in, her voice honey-sweet. Let's be honest. You're not just refusing because of money. You're refusing because you don't approve of me. I set down the brushes, finally meeting her gaze. What makes you think that? Oh, please. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. The way you look at me, like I'm some gold digger who seduced your precious son. The constant mentions of Jason's ex-girlfriend at family dinners. The little digs about my privileged upbringing. If you're so privileged, why do you need my money? Her perfectly composed face cracked just for a second. It's not about need. It's about family unity. About proving you accept us. Jason's watching very carefully how you handle this, you know. The threat hung in the air between us. I thought of David, of how he'd handle this situation. He always said Sophie reminded him of a porcelain doll, beautiful on the outside, hollow within. I accept that Jason loves you, I said carefully, but I won't bankrupt myself to prove it. Sophie stood, smoothing her skirt. Funny, that's exactly what Jason said you'd say. He also mentioned you've been selling some of your paintings lately. Private collectors, apparently. My blood ran cold. The only person who knew about those sales was Marcus, my best friend who'd been helping me arrange them to cover David's remaining medical bills. Jason's been monitoring my finances? Oh, don't look so shocked. Sophie placed the envelope on my desk. He's worried about you, living alone in that big house. All those expenses. He just wants to make sure you're making smart decisions. By spying on my bank accounts? By protecting his inheritance. Her smile turned sharp. After all, that house belongs to both your children. It would be a shame if poor financial choices forced you to sell it. I gripped the edge of my desk, knuckles white. Get out. Think about it, Hannah. Families should support each other, don't you agree? She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and those abstract pieces you've been working on? The ones in your studio? Jason says they're actually quite good. Worth something to the right buyer. After she left, I sat among the drying paintings and scattered art supplies, my students' creative chaos suddenly feeling like a mockery. Sophie hadn't just threatened me. She'd revealed that Jason had been in my home, in my private studio, without my knowledge. My phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. Mom, we need to talk. Found something about Sophie you need to see. Another buzz, this time from Jason. Hope Sophie dropped off the contracts. Let's make this work, Mom, for everyone's sake. I opened my bottom drawer, pulled out the framed photo I kept there. David and Jason at Jason's college graduation, both beaming with pride. I traced my late husband's face, remembering how he used to say that love without respect was like a painting without color, technically complete, but missing its soul. The manila envelope sat on my desk like a bomb waiting to explode. I picked it up, feeling its weight, then walked to the art room's industrial sink. Turning on the tap, I held the envelope under the stream until the expensive paper dissolved into pulp. Sophie wanted to talk about family unity? Fine. But first, I needed to see whatever Evelyn had discovered. And then I needed to have a very serious conversation with Marcus about who else might have access to my financial information. I'd spent 25 years teaching teenagers that art required both passion and precision. Maybe it was time to apply those same principles to revenge. Evelyn's discovery turned out to be a series of emails accidentally forwarded to her friend Lily, who worked at the same advertising agency as Sophie. My hands trembled as I read the exchange between Sophie and her father on my daughter's laptop screen. They're planning to force a sale of the house, Evelyn said, her voice tight with rage. Sophie's father has connections at the bank holding your mortgage. The words on the screen blurred. That's why they've been pushing so hard for the wedding contribution. They want me to default. There's more. Evelyn scrolled down. Jason's been feeding them information about your finances for months. Account numbers, payment history, everything. My own son. The boy I'd nursed through chickenpox, taught to ride a bike, held through his first heartbreak. Now he was helping them orchestrate my financial ruin. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the front window, I spotted Jason's car in the driveway. Don't answer it, Evelyn warned. But I was already moving. Some part of me needed to look my son in the eye to see if there was anything left of the child I'd raised. Jason burst in the moment I opened the door. Mom, we need to talk about the contracts. Sophie said you destroyed them? Like you destroyed my trust? The words came out eerily calm. Or should we talk about how you've been accessing my private financial information? He faltered for just a moment before his face hardened. I was trying to help. You're not thinking clearly since Dad died, making emotional decisions. Emotional decisions? Evelyn appeared in the hallway. Like selling Mom's house out from under her? Jason's head snapped toward his sister. Stay out of this, Evelyn. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. She held up her phone. Want me to read Sophie's emails out loud? The ones where she calls Mom a pathetic art teacher who needs to learn her place? Color drained from Jason's face. Where did you get those? Does it matter? I stepped closer to my son. What matters is that you chose this. Chose to betray your own mother for what? Money? Status? Sophie's approval? It's not betrayal, he insisted. It's practical. This house is too big for you, too expensive. Sophie's father knows a developer who'd pay well above market value. We could use that money for the wedding, get you set up in a nice apartment. Get out! My voice shook with a fury I'd never felt before. Get out of my house before I call the police and report your financial fraud. Mom, be reasonable. Reasonable? I laughed, and the sound scared even me. Was it reasonable when you broke into my studio? When you went through my personal papers? When you gave Sophie's father access to my accounts? Your fingerprints are all over my filing cabinet, Jason. Did you think I wouldn't notice? He took a step back, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of consequences, but fear of me, of this new mother who wouldn't be manipulated or controlled. Sophie's right, he said finally. You've changed. The mom I knew would want me to be happy. The son I knew wouldn't try to destroy me to get what he wants. He left without another word. Through the window, I watched him pull away, phone already pressed to his ear, no doubt reporting back to Sophie. Mom? Evelyn touched my arm. What are we going to do? I turned from the window, my mind suddenly crystal clear. First, we're calling Marcus. He needs to help me move my accounts somewhere Jason can't access them. Then we're going to find out exactly who else Sophie's father has in his pocket. And then, I thought of David, of his gentle heart and fierce protection of those he loved, of how he'd want me to handle this situation with grace and forgiveness. But David was gone, and in his absence, I'd discovered a harder truth. Sometimes love means fighting back with everything you have. Then, I said, we're going to make them regret ever thinking they could take what's mine. Evelyn's phone buzzed. Another email from Lily. More evidence of Sophie and Jason's schemes. More ammunition for the war they'd started. They wanted to play games with money and power? Fine. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I'd spent 30 years teaching art. I knew how to take raw materials and transform them into something unexpected. It was time to show them my masterpiece. Marcus's office felt too small for the bomb Evelyn was about to drop. She'd insisted on meeting here, away from any possibility of Sophie's surveillance. Now she paced between the law books and certificates while Marcus studied the documents spread across his desk. It's worse than we thought, Evelyn said, stopping at the window. Sophie's father doesn't just want the house. He wants Mom's entire art collection. I gripped the arms of my chair. What? Marcus removed his reading glasses. According to these emails, Sophie's been photographing your paintings and sending them to several high-end galleries. She's been positioning herself as your representative. She can't sell what she doesn't own, I said. No, but Jason can. Marcus slid a paper across his desk. This is a power of attorney document. It gives Jason authority over your assets in the event of your mental incapacity. The room tilted. Mental incapacity? They're building a case, Evelyn's voice cracked. Sophie's father has a psychiatrist friend willing to testify that your grief over Dad has made you unstable. They're going to try to take everything. A knock at the door made us all jump. Marcus's secretary stepped in. Mrs. Mitchell, your son is here. He's quite insistent about speaking with you. Before anyone could stop me, I walked out to the reception area. Jason stood there in his expensive suit, looking more like Sophie's creation than my son. What are you doing here? He demanded. I could ask you the same thing. Sophie's worried about you. You're not returning calls. You're meeting with lawyers. Worried enough to have me declared incompetent? His face went blank, a tell he'd had since childhood. Who told you that? Does it matter? What matters is that my son is trying to steal my life's work. It's not stealing. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. It's protecting you from yourself. You're not thinking clearly. Living alone in that big house, surrounded by Dad's memories, obsessing over your art. My art that Sophie's been shopping to galleries? Another tell, a muscle jumping in his jaw. Those paintings are worth something. Real money, Mom. Money you could use for a fresh start. The only fresh start I need is from you. His expression hardened. Fine. We tried to do this the easy way. But if you're going to be difficult... Difficult? Evelyn emerged from Marcus's office. Like how difficult it was for you to photograph Mom's private financial documents? Or how difficult it was to arrange for a fake psychiatric evaluation? Stay out of this, Evelyn. Or what? You'll try to have me declared incompetent too? Jason's hands clenched. You've always been jealous, ever since Sophie came into my life. Sophie came into all our lives, I cut in, like a virus. Don't talk about her like that. Why not? She's turned my son into a thief and a liar. What should I call her? I'm trying to save you, he shouted, mask finally cracking. You're drowning in that house, in Dad's medical bills, in your pointless art projects. Sophie's family can give you a fresh start, a new life. By stealing my old one? His phone buzzed. Sophie's face lit up the screen. Jason stared at it, then at me, and I saw the moment he made his choice. You'll thank me for this someday, he said, reaching for the phone. No, I stepped forward. I won't, because after today I don't have a son anymore. He froze, phone halfway to his ear. Mom, the son I raised died with his father. I don't know who you are anymore. I turned away, walking back into Marcus's office. Behind me, I heard Jason's voice break. Mom, please. But I didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Because if I did, he might see what this was costing me. Might see that beneath my anger was a mother's heart, shattering into pieces. Marcus, I said, closing the door on my son's pleas. What do we do next? He shared a look with Evelyn, then pulled out a fresh legal pad. We fight, and we make sure they regret ever threatening what's yours. Outside the office, I heard Jason's footsteps retreat. Each step felt like another nail in the coffin of our relationship. But maybe that's what revenge really was. The death of love, replaced by something harder and colder. Something that wouldn't break so easily next time. Lily's intel arrived at midnight. Screenshots from Sophie's private Instagram account showing my paintings displayed in her father's office, tagged as new acquisitions. My hands shook as I forwarded them to Marcus. We need to move fast, Evelyn said, pacing my studio. If they're already claiming ownership, they can't sell what they don't possess. I ran my fingers over my latest canvas, a dark piece I'd started after David's death. The paintings are still here. For now. She stopped pacing. But Jason has a key. The thought of them entering my sanctuary, touching my work, made something snap inside me. I grabbed my phone, dialing Marcus's number despite the late hour. He answered on the first ring. I was just about to call you. Sophie's father made a move. What kind of move? He's filed a temporary guardianship petition. Claims you're experiencing psychological distress, making impulsive financial decisions. They're requesting an emergency hearing. The room spun. Evelyn grabbed my arm, steadying me. When? Tomorrow morning. Hannah. Marcus hesitated. They've included statements from your neighbors about erratic behavior, late-night painting sessions, arguing with Jason in the driveway. They've been building this case for months, Evelyn whispered. Everything they've done was leading to this. A text message lit up my phone from Sophie. It's not too late to reconsider our offer. Jason still loves you. Another message followed. Think about what's best for everyone. Mom? Evelyn's voice seemed far away. What do you want to do? I stared at my paintings, 30 years of work, of emotion poured onto canvas. Each piece held memories. The landscape I'd painted while pregnant with Jason, the abstract series that helped me process David's illness, the portraits that paid for Evelyn's college textbooks. "Call Lily," I said. "Tell her we need everything she has on Sophie's father. Bank records, business dealings, anything." Already on it, Evelyn pulled out her laptop. But what about the hearing? I walked to my supply closet, pulling out blank canvases. "Help me load these into your car, all of them." "Mom?" "Then we'll pack up the finished pieces. Everything goes to Marcus's storage unit tonight. They'll see that as proving their point about erratic behavior." "Let them." I grabbed my brushes, decades of accumulated tools. They want to paint me as unstable? Fine. But they're not taking my life's work. Another text from Sophie. "The psychiatrist can see you tomorrow afternoon. Just a friendly chat." I showed Evelyn the message. Her face hardened. Lily found something about that psychiatrist. Seems he lost his license in Connecticut for falsifying evaluations in divorce cases. Sophie's father got it reinstated. Of course he did. I started wrapping paintings and moving blankets. What else has Lily found? "Sophie's father's company is under federal investigation for fraud. That's why they need money fast. Their assets are frozen." The pieces clicked together. "So they're after my house and art because they can't access their own wealth." Exactly. Evelyn helped me carry paintings to her car. "But Mom, if we expose this..." "Jason goes down with them." I paused, a wrapped canvas heavy in my arms. "I know." We worked in silence, emptying my studio piece by piece. With each painting we moved, I felt myself hardening, transforming from the mother who'd been betrayed into something else entirely. My phone buzzed again, Jason this time. "Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I typed back, "It's already exactly as hard as you made it." Then I blocked his number. Dawn was breaking when we finished. My studio stood empty except for one canvas, the dark piece I'd been working on since David died. "What about that one?" Evelyn asked. I picked up a brush, dipping it in red paint. "This one isn't finished yet." "Mom?" "Every artist needs a signature piece." I started painting over the darkness, transforming grief into something fiercer. Something that tells their true story. And what story is this telling? I stepped back, letting her see what was emerging on the canvas. A phoenix rising from ashes, its wings made of shattered family photographs. It's telling them they picked the wrong mother to destroy. The emergency guardianship hearing felt like a funeral. I sat beside Marcus, watching Jason and Sophie parade witness after witness before the judge. Former colleagues describing my erratic behavior since David's death. Neighbors concerned about my late-night painting sessions. Even my own sister, carefully coached, expressing worry about my declining mental state. "Your Honor," Sophie's father's attorney gestured toward me, "Mrs. Mitchell's recent actions, moving her valuable art collection in the middle of the night, refusing psychiatric evaluation, cutting off contact with her son, demonstrate a clear pattern of instability." I gripped the edge of my seat, feeling the trap closing. Every action I'd taken to protect myself from them now served as evidence against me. The judge turned to Marcus. "Does your client wish to make a statement?" Before Marcus could respond, the courtroom doors burst open. Lily rushed in, clutching a manila envelope. She hurried to Evelyn, whispering urgently. "Your Honor," Marcus stood, "we request a brief recess." Denied. The judge's gavel cracked. "I've heard enough. Given the testimony and Mrs. Mitchell's concerning behavior, I'm granting temporary guardianship to Jason Mitchell, effective immediately." The room tilted. Through blurring vision, I saw Sophie squeeze Jason's hand, triumphant. My son wouldn't look at me. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "Mrs. Mitchell is ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation within 48 hours. All financial decisions will require her guardian's approval." "Mom," Evelyn's voice cracked behind me. "Lily found proof. Sophie's father's company is irrelevant to these proceedings," the judge cut in. "This hearing concerns Mrs. Mitchell's competency, nothing else." Outside the courtroom, Sophie approached, her victory barely concealed beneath false concern. "Hannah, this is for your own good. The psychiatrist is very understanding." "The same psychiatrist who lost his license for falsifying reports?" I asked quietly. Her smile flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. Mom, Jason stepped forward, reaching for my arm. Please don't fight this. We can help you. I jerked away from his touch. Like you helped yourself to my financial records? Or helped yourself to my house key to photograph my paintings? Those paintings are worth something, Sophie interjected. We're trying to protect your assets. While your father's company is under federal investigation? Evelyn appeared beside me, Lily's envelope in hand. Is that why you need Mom's assets? To cover your family's frozen accounts? Color drained from Sophie's face. Who told you? Mrs. Mitchell, the court-appointed guardian, a severe woman in her 60s, interrupted. I'm here to escort you home and inventory your assets. Those paintings are mine, Sophie snapped, mask finally cracking. We already have buyers. What buyers? I asked, but Jason pulled her away, whispering urgently in her ear. The guardian checked her watch. Mrs. Mitchell, shall we? I looked at my children, Evelyn, fierce and loyal, and Jason, a stranger wearing my son's face. I need a moment with my daughter. Make it quick. I pulled Evelyn aside. What's in the envelope? Proof of everything. Sophie's father's fraud investigation, the psychiatrist's history, emails about selling your paintings. Lily found it all. Give it to Marcus. Don't let anyone see you do it. Mom, they won. For now. I squeezed her hand. But they don't know what's coming. Time's up, the guardian called. Mrs. Mitchell, your psychiatric evaluation is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I walked away from my children, following the guardian to her car. Through the window, I watched Jason comfort Sophie, saw Evelyn slip the envelope to Marcus, observed the pieces moving into place. They thought they'd broken me, thought declaring me incompetent would give them everything they wanted. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I'd spent 30 years teaching art students that sometimes you have to destroy a canvas completely before you can create something true. Let them think they'd won. Let them celebrate their victory. They didn't realize they'd just given me exactly what I needed. A front row seat to their destruction. The guardian started the car. Your son seems very concerned about you. I watched Jason and Sophie grow smaller in the rearview mirror. Yes, I said quietly. He should be. Sophie's engagement party at the Rosewood estate was everything she'd dreamed. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and the city's elite mingling beneath gilt-edged ceilings. I watched from the entrance as she held court, Jason at her side, both of them basking in their apparent victory. The court-appointed guardian hovered nearby. Remember, Mrs. Mitchell, no scenes. I smiled, fingering the USB drive in my clutch. I wouldn't dream of it. Evelyn appeared at my elbow, Lily close behind. Everything's ready. Marcus is here with the federal agents. And the gallery owners? Front row seats. She squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? I watched Sophie's father take the microphone, raising a toast to the happy couple. More sure than I've ever been. The room applauded as Sophie stepped up to speak. We're so grateful to everyone for coming tonight, especially my future mother-in-law, Hannah. She gestured toward me, voice dripping honey. Who's been so supportive during her difficult time? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew about the guardianship hearing. In fact, Sophie continued, we have a surprise announcement. Jason and I will be establishing an art foundation featuring an exclusive collection of contemporary works. My works, I said, loud enough to carry. The room hushed. The ones you photographed without permission and tried to sell behind my back. Sophie's smile froze. Hannah, perhaps this isn't the best time. It's the perfect time. I moved forward, Evelyn at my shoulder. While all your buyers are here. Jason stepped forward. Mom, you're not well. Let me take you home. Play it, I told Evelyn. The projection screen behind Sophie flickered to life. Emails filled the screen. Correspondence between Sophie's father and various galleries, offering my paintings for sale. Documents showing the fraud investigation into their family business. Medical board proceedings against their pet psychiatrist. Turn that off, Sophie's father demanded. Why? I asked. Afraid your guests will see how you plan to strip me of everything I own to cover your company's losses? The room erupted in whispers. I spotted several gallery owners backing toward the exits. "You're making a scene," Jason hissed. "The Guardian has already seen all of this evidence." Marcus stepped forward, 2 federal agents beside him, along with the judge who just reversed the guardianship order. Sophie's composure cracked. "You can't prove—" "Actually," Lily spoke up, "I kept excellent records while working at your father's firm, including the offshore accounts where you've been hiding assets from federal investigators." The agents moved toward Sophie's father. The party dissolved into chaos as guests fled the unfolding scandal. "Mom," Jason grabbed my arm, desperate now. "I didn't know about the fraud. Sophie said we were protecting you." "No," I pulled free. "You chose this, chose her, chose money over family. Please." The son I raised died with his father. I turned away. "I don't know who you are anymore." Sophie lunged forward suddenly, mask completely shattered. "You vindictive bitch, you've ruined everything." "No, Sophie." I caught her wrist before she could strike me. "You did that yourself. I just showed everyone who you really are." The agents led Sophie's father away in handcuffs. Jason stood frozen, watching his future implode. Sophie collapsed into tears, her perfect makeup running. "Mrs. Mitchell," one of the gallery owners approached, "I'd love to discuss representing your work, your actual work, not the stolen images." I nodded, but my eyes were on Jason. He looked lost, broken, like the little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered David's words. Sometimes love means letting go. "Come on, Mom." Evelyn took my arm. "Let's go home." We left them there, Sophie sobbing, Jason staring after us, their perfect world in pieces around them. Outside, the night air felt clean, purifying. "Are you okay?" Evelyn asked. I looked back at the Rosewood estate, where I'd just destroyed my son's life to save my own. "No," I said honestly. "But I will be." Sometimes the art of revenge is knowing exactly when to put down your brush and walk away from the canvas. The gallery opening drew quite a crowd. My Phoenix painting commanded the center wall, its wings spread wide, family photographs scattered like ashes beneath. Beside it hung the dark piece I'd started after David's death, now transformed into something fiercer, a study in survival. "Remarkable work, Mrs. Mitchell," a critic said, scribbling in his notebook. "The evolution from grief to power is palpable." I smiled, catching Evelyn's eye across the room. She stood with Lily, both beaming with pride. The gallery buzzed with energy, collectors already placing holds on pieces. Marcus appeared at my elbow. "You've seen the news?" I nodded. Sophie's father had pleaded guilty to fraud charges. Their family's empire was crumbling, assets seized, reputations shattered. Sophie had fled to Europe, leaving Jason to face the aftermath alone. "He's been trying to reach you," Marcus said quietly. "I know." I'd seen the emails, the voicemails, each more desperate than the last. My son, learning the hard way that actions have consequences. A commotion near the entrance drew my attention. Jason stood there, looking lost among the art crowd. He'd lost weight, his designer clothes hanging loose. Our eyes met across the gallery. "Mom," he started toward me, but Evelyn intercepted him. "This isn't the place," she warned. "Please," he said, "I just need to explain." "There's nothing to explain." I moved closer, studying him like one of my paintings, seeing both what was there and what was missing. "You made your choices. I was wrong." His voice cracked. "About everything. Sophie, the money, you." "Yes," I said simply. "You were." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a familiar envelope. "I found these in Sophie's things before she left. She'd been buying your paintings through intermediaries. Small pieces, student works. She said—" He swallowed hard. "She said she wanted to own a piece of the family she was destroying." I took the envelope, feeling its weight. "Did you know?" "No, I didn't know a lot of things." He looked around the gallery at my success rising from the ashes of his betrayal. "Dad would be proud of you." "Your father," I said carefully, taught me that true strength isn't in revenge. It's in what you create after the damage is done. Is there, he hesitated, is there anything left to create here? I studied my son, not the stranger who'd tried to destroy me, but the boy who used to help me clean my brushes, who'd sit for hours watching me paint. Somewhere beneath Sophie's influence, that boy still existed. That depends, I said, on what you're willing to build from these ashes. He nodded, understanding the weight of what I was offering. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a blank canvas, a chance. I should go, he said. But Mom, that piece, he pointed to the phoenix. It's incredible. After he left, Evelyn joined me. Are you okay? Look at this. I showed her the envelope. Inside were receipts for my early works, each purchased anonymously over the years. Sophie's secret collection of the family she'd tried to claim through force. What are you going to do? I watched the critics and collectors admiring my work, saw Marcus talking with gallery owners, felt the weight of victory and loss intertwined. I'm going to paint, I said simply. Later that night, in my studio, I started a new piece. Not about revenge or betrayal or even triumph. Something different. About the complex architecture of family. About how some bonds break while others grow stronger. About the strange mercy of letting go. I thought of Jason's face in the gallery, of Sophie's hidden collection, of Evelyn's unwavering support, of David, who always said that true art comes from life's deepest wounds. The canvas before me slowly filled with color, not a phoenix this time, but something more nuanced. A study in forgiveness, perhaps, or maybe just a reminder that even the most complete victories leave questions unanswered, wounds unhealed. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes the art isn't in the resolution, but in what remains unfinished. I picked up my brush and continued painting into the night, creating something new from the echoes of what was lost.